welcome in the Awesemo MLB Deeper Dive show. I'm Eytan Shander, and with me, Anthony Gundacker. You can follow Anthony at Gundacker on Twitter, at Shander Show. For me, we have a lot of things here to cover on it's been a shortened slate tonight, the 4-game slate due to the postponement, the doubleheader, a lot of other things happening here on Awesemo, including every show that you might have missed is podcasted up on our site. So make sure you just simply go awesemo.com/podcast, rate, review. That's what we really want, for you to rate, review, come back. If you missed anything, again, you're going to have a couple of hours here after we're done leading up to first pitch. You missed something, you want to go back, like, what did Anthony say there? He broke something down about the Cubs, and you want to make sure you don't miss it. That's why we're here for a podcast. What's happening, man? Appreciate everything here. And this is my second show, so I'm still being integrated into the Awesemo community, and it's a pleasure to be alongside a pro like you.
What's up, buddy? I hope you're enjoying it. It is today should be an easy ride. Just 4 games on the main slate, pretty cut and dry pitching options, so shouldn't be that hard to kind of navigate where we want to start, and at least project where the field's going to be at. Maybe we tried to get a little bit more creative with some of the one-offs and some of the sneaky plays, but I think the slate seems a little bit black and white at first look. So I'm happy to break it down. I'm glad to be working with you, and let's do this.
I love it. The Yankees hat threw me off, right? Especially me being in Philadelphia, but we have a lot. And of course, we're brought to you by Jock Market. We'll tell you all about that coming up. Odds Shopper, where you should be going for the best odds here, courtesy of Awesemo and then Awesemo Plus. A lot of things, as I mentioned, on site. But as the overall view, we had the postponement, so we're shortened a game on the slate due to the doubleheader tonight. And you kind of hinted a little bit at it, Anthony. Is there anything even a little more specific, without getting into the first game? We will touch on Chicago and Atlanta coming up, but just overall, how you viewed the slate and maybe a mentality of how you would play this shorter slate.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like Trevor Bauer is going to be our top end option. Everybody else seems like they will not come without a little bit of risk. And looks like we have a opener to long man reliever situation for at least the Brave side of things. So pitching is unfortunately seems a little one-manned, and everyone else is just kind of get in where you fit in. Otherwise, offensively, I'm very intrigued to see if Chase Field will have the roof open, and I'll be attacking that. But I think the story of this slate is going to be, what do you do past Trevor Bauer?
Yeah, and is that, like, we just talk about it, right, overall, before we touch that first game, just looking at Bauer, and once we get into the game as well, we'll look a little deeper with Bauer. But just overall, is this ever I'm just curious if there ever is a scenario where you can look at and say the heavy chalk, the heavy favorite in Bauer, who clearly has separated himself from the rest of the pack, even cost-wise, when you look at him on Draftkings and Fanduel, is the contrarian play out there? Are 2 pitchers not named Bauer out there to really make some money here? Or are we just wasting our time trying to even explore that?
The contrarian side of that, is to go the opposite way of Bauer right now. According to the Awesemo ownership projections, Trevor Bauer sitting at 71.5% projected ownership. So you could kind of play both sides of the fence, no matter how many lineups you're running. If you're running 10 to 20, if you put yourself 40% of lineups without Bauer, you kind of play both sides of the fence there, get yourself some of the contrarian side of things. I think the real contrarian thing is to stack Brewers, much less fade Bauer. So yeah, there's ways to get different. And when baseball is going to give you egregious chalk like this, I mean, it's baseball. Stuff can happen. Bauer can, pull a muscle in the second inning and becomes a bullpen game. So there is reason at that ownership to get a little different, but you don't have to do it at the sake of your bankroll. You just manage your exposures versus the field. And that's one of the good things about the Awesemo.com tools is that ownership projections are on point, and you can really, on these shorter slates, really leverage the field with the ownership projections, and it looks like behind Bauer, Luke Weaver's at 48%. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I'm looking right here on the top stack tool, also on site, right, where Milwaukee is not even at Fords. The stack percentage for Milwaukee is at 3.9. Nobody, to your point, you want to talk about full contrarian here. It's don't start Bauer tonight and roll with a Milwaukee stack, and nobody, I imagine, is doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I think just for the sake of a 4-gamer, it's still going to be a plus hitter spark. It was American Family Field. If they have the roof open, it looks like they might. The environment will even further boost hitters here. I think most of these stadiums could be hitter friendly, especially if Texas keeps their roof closed. I think the other 3 parks on the slate will be hitter friendly. And Trevor Bauer has given up some power. I mean, Tatis got him twice last game. Tatis, of course, a high upper echelon player, but there's some, even if it ain't a full stack, get 1 or 2 bats there against Bauer, and maybe that's how you get a little different.
All right, Anthony, as we start to look at the first game, right? Cubs, Braves in Atlanta. We had a major rout last night. We remind everybody, like, subscribe constantly. You want to subscribe. You want to hit that notification bell once you subscribe so you get all of the updates on everything that's happening, including Awesemo Plus, as we continue to let you know all of the great things that are available for you on awesemo.com. Awesemo Plus, the paid subscription, even more availability from chats to tools that you can use, and including every now and again, right, today, our free premium tool is MLB's top pitchers. And you're going to want to use that alongside everything you're hearing with Anthony as we break down, yes, a short slate, tight slate, 4-game slate, but use what you have available to you alongside the analysis that you're getting. So let's look at the pitchers tonight to open up with the Braves and the Cubs. It was a rout last night, so I don't know how much that factors in. The total is actually a little low compared to what maybe people thought, a 9.5. Braves handled that alone last night. Is there a pitcher to start with that you like in that second slot, assuming that we're rolling Bauer in the top one?
So I believe in metrics to grade a pitcher a little bit more than matchup. At best, this matchup against the Braves is not good for Adbert Alzolay. However, his individual metrics as a pitcher do shine. His ERA is suggesting that he's been rather unlucky. He has a 5.4 ERA on the season with a 3.46 SIERA and a 3.32 xFIP. So that's calling for serious regression should he continue to be the same pitcher mechanics-wise that he has been. He's coupling that with a 14.5% swing and strike rate, which is really elite, and an under 1 whip and an under 10% walk rate. So in him so far, just 15 innings, has been a good pitcher that has been unlucky. So I do think there is a case to run a little bit of Alzolay at 7-2 on DraftKings. SP2 spot on this slate, I'm probably just hoping for that chip in a chair 15 to 20 DKP, and it's not outside the range of outcomes for Alzolay to get there. You mentioned the blowout yesterday. Doesn't really you can't really quantify that day to day unless you tax the bullpen heavily yesterday. I don't know if you saw this. Anthony Rizzo actually threw some pitches yesterday for the Cubs, and he struck out Freddie Freeman. So
That was great.
So yeah, so not like they completely taxed the bullpen either, but Alzolay does have a case for me so far. However, SunTrust has been pretty hitter friendly so far, and the Braves have kind of had some spots where they've really popped off. Ronald Acuna, Freddie Freeman are 2 of the guys that I would be the heaviest on from this game. Marcell Ozuna has been hit or miss against Kyle Hendricks. He was able to hit. I like Ozuna against pitchers that don't have good whiff stuff. But he would make a stack here. I think the Braves 4.8 implied run total is going to come in as the second highest implied total on the slate. So the Braves will still be a trendy stack. But I will say Alzolay does have some underlying metrics that wouldn't put him at 0% in my exposures. Bryce Wilson has not been as alluring from an advanced metric standpoint. He's got a Sierra and xFIP that's sitting well over 5 over the course of the last 3 seasons. The caveat here is there's no more than 20 samples or 20 innings of sample size inside of a season for the last 3 years. So this is not going to be a starting pitcher to go deep. He's going to be a below average guy to start this game. 4 and 5 innings, the last 2 appearances, and in both of those games, it wasn't pretty. A pair of bombs in both those games, and as many hits or more allowed as innings pitched. So he's not good. And the Cubs look like they could be in a better spot here with their pitcher and his metrics versus Wilson leading into a bullpen that's really not going to cause me to run. I can't see myself justifying Bryce Wilson here, but I will justify some Alzolay, some Cubs stacks, and then Brave stacks just because, they're a good team.
Yeah, and I wonder there, just to follow up about Wilson, even if he has a strong outing, as you mentioned, he's a quasi-opener, right? A pseudo-opener, if you will, and he's not going to expect to go deep. And I wonder if even if he came out and changed a little bit of what we've seen and dominated 4 or 5 innings, if there's any room for him to stay out in the game, or if he's automatically capped and at 70 something, where I see him at 6,700 on Draftkings. If you already know he's going to be capped at 5 at the most, then you're essentially leaving a lot of money still on the board, right?
I mean, yes, but salary's not going to be as big of a player in general in MLB, but especially on these smaller slates. When there's only one ace on the board right now, it's Trevor Bauer. The SP2 at these prices, you almost got to think of it as a Trout-like bat. Could they get you home run points? Could Bryce Wilson or one of these 6-7K pitchers get you 14 fantasy points? It's very viable. The thing with Wilson, though, is his underlying metrics aren't enough for me to gamble on. Alzolay, I could say, oh man, he's got a 14.5% swinging strike rate this year. His extra Sierra is good. Wilson has no advanced metrics to really give me that assurance. So I'm probably not going to get there on Wilson. You did mention that, as an opener, he hasn't thrown more than 69 pitches so far this season. But if he stretches out 10, 15 more pitches, he could get to 75, and maybe he inning eats his way to 5-6 innings, and maybe he scoops up a win. With that thought process, maybe he's worth a chip in a chair, but I don't think he's going to make my player pool. I think I'll have Alzolay, probably not Wilson, and it looks like Josh Tomlin is the projected long reliever for the Braves here, and that's kind of backwards. Usually, Tomlin has even less of a leash so far this season than Wilson. So I wouldn't be stunned if Tomlin started and then Wilson was the long man. But neither one of these guys have any reason for me to go after them, and then Tomlin's a guy that I can still pick on for a lot of hits. This should be a good spot. I'm actually looking at these two pitchers. I'm kind of surprised that the Cubs are dogs. This almost looks like a even money situation for me, and I'd almost dabble with the Cubs to win this one.
Think of it. It's so reactionary, right? I mean, I see it at -141. Oddshopper.awesemo.com is the place. They're already going to do the work for you and make sure that they find the best odds shopping around. And you're going to get, depending if it's the dog or in this case, the favorite here for Atlanta. So Atlanta laying the 141, you mentioned Chicago being that road dog. It has to be, especially when you look at the dive that you just did with the pitcher and coming back to respond after the blowout. That is a total overreactionary total, in my opinion, Anthony, as far as 9.5 and even -141 for Atlanta, where they're basically saying 10-0 last night, expect another rout tonight.
Yeah,
I don't buy it, is what I'm saying.
I don't know about a rout, but I can see it being high scoring. Obviously, what happened, when you get position players hitting the bump, it's bad. But
are we stacking the Cubs then? I mean, if you look at where they are on the top stack, they're right there with the Braves.
Mm-hmm. I do like the Cubs. It looks like on the Awesemo top stacks tool, they are projected to be a top value stack almost 21% of the time, with just a 17.5% ownership share, so you can leverage the field without having to get crazy in your own exposures. So I do like the Cubs. I think matchup wise they project really well. This lineup is not out yet, so I don't want to like. I'm afraid of commitment,
Sure.
but I don't want to commit to them just yet, unless until I see names with the green light on them. But I'll probably have them as one of my favorite stacks here, because on the board, like, you probably are gonna want like Dodgers against the Brewers. Really at this top stack tool with the D-backs as the top owned stack right now. You're gonna need some value to offset the Trevor Bauer salary point. They have a guy like Nico Hoerner projected to lead off. He's only 3K. Rizzo's only 4K. Like there's Ian Happ, good little switching in the middle of the lineup, perhaps 3.5. There's some value here. So I'm in agreement with the value projection from the top stacks tool, and I definitely could see the Cubs being one of my top 3 stacks to target so far. But that's not saying a lot. This is just 4 games.
Right. Everything is, I guess the caveat is that it's 4 games. It's a short slate. Sloan physique on the stream. I think it's a combination of the Braves pitching being weak today and the Braves being a possible boom team as far as both the line that we mentioned and also trying to find value with the Cubs. And yes, look, as far as commitment issues in relationships, maybe not so good, but in DFS before lineups are out, nobody's going to hold you accountable for that one, Anthony. I promise you, and I'll catch your back if so. So as things progress, it's something to look at, because you're going to get, as you mentioned, just going through a couple of those names, right through Chris Bryant, I saw down there as well. You're going to get good value, at least numbers wise, for the Cubs. And then you mentioned the analytics, the deeper dive into the stack and the payout for Chicago. If they're not a high owned stack, it might be enough right there in this short slate to jump on them.
I completely agree. I mean, it's for a short slate like this might be more of a game theory exercise than anything.
Fair enough. All right, let's move on. We have the Dodgers in Milwaukee. Already mentioned about what's happening with that Brewers stack and how little activity it is. But if you just look overall, Trevor Bauer is the clear chalk here. And I don't know if there's any other angle outside of just pay it and start them and start looking at your SP2.
Yeah, this is the ultimate value is subjective example. You can't really set a net on return on investment in baseball because every slate is different. So what I mean by that is Trevor Bauer's 11.3K today. Pre-flop, if he got you like 20, 25, you wouldn't be that excited. But after the fact, like he at 25 might outscore every other pitcher by 10. So value becomes more of a raw point. So Trevor Bauer doesn't necessarily have to be the highest scoring pitcher. He just has to be one of the top 2. And I just don't see many ranges of outcomes where he's not one of the top 2 scoring pitchers on DraftKings to give you one of the highest floor, highest ceiling trajectories for your personal lineups. Matchup wise, the Brewers have been really, really underwhelming on the season, striking out almost 28% against right-handed pitchers. There's not much in this lineup that scares us. The only guy that they possess is Christian Yelich, and he's been hurt. So there's nothing pre-flop to get me away from the Bauer play. All it is at the end of the day is game theory and leverage. So if I'm running 100 lineups and we have Trevor Bauer projected at 71.5%, I could get away with 90%. And then if I really just wanted to get different just for the sake of being different on a 4-gamer, things happen. Maybe I go 10% no Bauer, 5% Brewer stacks, and just 5% of no Bauer lineups. I would say I probably would be closer to 85-80%. To still have a little bit of leverage and a little bit of creativity past that. So yeah, not much pushback against Bauer. The Dodgers are in a lead spot against this Brewers pitching staff in a super plus hitters park. Eric Lauer, is this his first opportunity on the season? Looks like it might be.
Yes.
All right, so going back to the last couple of seasons for Eric Lauer, particularly last season, he only threw 9.1 innings, and it was bad against righties. So I'm going to I'm going to go a little bit deeper to 2019, where we have almost 150 innings of sample size. The Sierra and xFIP over 4.7, swing and strike rate 8.3%. So he's a contact pitcher, and that's a dangerous thing to be against this Dodgers lineup. With a 1.4 whip that season, and he had elevated line drive rates to both sides of the plate. On average, over about 24% to both sides. So this is a really good spot for the Dodgers. Should he be that pitcher that he was 2 seasons ago? And there's a case to be made. 2 years of age for a pitcher, he might even be worse. Past him is a Brewers bullpen that has been okay, but still has let up some bombs here. And the Dodgers are just an elite team. So that lineup did not come out yet, but I should. We're projecting Mookie Betts, Corey Seager, Turner, and Will Smith. If Will Smith's a cleanup catcher in this park, I mean, he's just in an elite spot against a lefty. And then Max Muncy, if he's bad. There's really no one on the Dodgers team, even if they're not in this projected lineup and they make it, that I would rule out. This is a great spot for the Dodgers. 4.5 implied run total seems a little bit low, but I think that's going to be more so due to the Brewers bullpen being good. But it could be one of those spots, if they get through Lauer early and put a 4 or 5 spot on him, they're not going to go to the back end. They're going to bring in some mop-up guys. So Dodger stack and play Bauer for me, no Lauer, and that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I especially with Lauer making his first start against this team, they've got to be salivating, right? Just sharks in the water circling for blood. As far as the ultra contrarian, since we are on this game here, Anthony, I'm curious, when you look at Milwaukee, knowing that it's just projected lineups here for tonight so far, is there anything specific? And maybe it's just knowing that you're going to get value. You mentioned Will Smith. I don't know if his counterpart now jumps out in a stack here where you can work 3 or 4 guys on this Brewers team, and it would be the ultimate risk. I understand that. Like, this is not worth 20 minutes of exploring, but just to have you kind of look at where the value would be, knowing that this is total boom or bust, most likely bust, by stacking the Brewers tonight.
Yeah, so the last 3 seasons of Trevor Bauer, he has a home run bugaboo to lefties. So 1.65 so far this season, an over 2 home run per 9 last year. So I guess you would probably want to chip in a chair one of these lefty power bats. I got Billy McKinney as the guy that projects the best to spot one on him, but past him, there's not a whole lot of power lefties here. And Keston Hira does have a 500 plus slugging over the course of the last 2 seasons, but there's not much here to love. So it'd probably be an errant fastball that gets away against McKinney. If I'm just projecting what Trevor Bauer's potential weakness would be, yeah, probably McKinney. I hate to say JBJ, but this would be a troll spot for Jackie Bradley Jr. to be the reason our Bauer lines get ruined.
Fair enough. All right. I just to mop that up on the Brewers side, because it really doesn't look like there was anything big time there, and as far as to push through. And as you mentioned, it's so obvious with the Dodgers. Is there a cutoff? You really can't go wrong here if we're talking about what you mentioned specifically with Will Smith, down to if you wanted to play as many Dodgers as you possibly could. But at this point, even if you look at the total, right, the projected total sitting at OddsShopper at 7.5, there is a pretty big belief in both the DFS and just the general sports betting world, and I imagine the analysis world, that all of the work tonight is going to be done by the Dodgers. 10, 12 run total could easily be 10, 11 by LA tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it could. Like I said, the Brewers bullpen is good. But if they get into mop up long reliever guys like that, all bets are off. The Dodgers are a lot less impactful against left-handed pitching than they are against righties. But a contact lefty like Eric Lauer, I'm not going to shy away from the Dodgers on the 4-gamer. I don't know if I'm making plans for position pitching in this one, but if the roof stays open, I mean, it's all plus environment for the Dodgers. And I would also say, when people are dotting out their stacks, a lot of times they'll leave off lefties against the starting lefty. I would say it would be a mistake to leave off a Corey Seager and maybe a Max Muncy in this one. So maybe that would be my advice. If you do want to stack Dodgers, don't just go for the platoon advantage here, because I do think Muncy and Seager are very, very much so worth having. And Seager is just on a whole different level since with the All-Star break last year. His StatCast metrics are insane.
As mentioned, today's show brought to you by Jock Market, and we continue to let you know about the great tools available at Awesemo Plus, content for nearly every DFS sport out there. The Awesemo Plus weekly pass is just $29.95, full access to all the premium content and tools on awesemo.com. And as mentioned, we have for the top pitchers today, free for you out there. And another reason why you would jump on and be part of Awesemo Plus. A Jock Market is awesome. Familiar with this before even popping in the future, if you will, of live sports betting and DFS. And if you haven't heard, it's basically turned fantasy sports into a stock market where live in-game you can jump in and out. Not live here in PA, but man, as soon as it is, trust me, we are waiting and ready to go for it. But wherever you are and it's available to you, make sure that you pop in and use our promo code Awesemo NHL20 for a $20 bonus on your first deposit. It's really cool, just the idea of it, the process of it. So today's show brought to you by the great people at Jock Market. You know, I was going back here to the stream to read a comment earlier, and I see that we've buried the lead here. Like, we start off, we talk about the general slate, we talk about the two earlier games here, and we've buried that it's your birthday today.
It's not. I don't know why that's a thing. Okay. It's definitely not.
Okay. Now, is this like a running bit with you that I should know ahead of time? And
no, I don't know where that came from. It's definitely not.
Got it. I see your response now too. It's not your birthday. Look, there could be a lot worse things thrown out on people to the stream, right? So the fact that somebody got that it was your birthday out there, like I said, it could be tons worse. But that's hilarious, man. So I mean, retract all the happy birthdays for you.
If I can go to Chili's or something, do I get a free cake and a birthday song? I'll pretend it's my birthday, but it's not.
Yeah, I guess you would you would have to go to a place that you don't need full on proof, right? Like, right, I guess the restaurants you can still get a free sundae or dessert or something without showing your license, but yeah, if you go where you mentioned, you might need to show your license. That's
all right.
Fair enough. Now, we also, one thing that I love here, and I'm starting to get more and more familiar with, not only being part of shows, but watching, is the Awesemo Hall of Fame. And just getting on, if it's Draftkings, right, you know, your site of choice, and seeing at the end, for me, it's usually at the end of the tournament, watching and seeing how far down I am, but seeing all the avatars, all of the Awesemo shots of people that have either won or right there at the top, you know, finishing with big money. This thing is awesome, man. This thing is really cool to see the Awesemo Hall of Fame and how it plays out. So we remind you again, it's an easy one there. As you see, awesemo.com/avatar is where you can download the profile pic, tweet your wins. And it's what we want to see, as you see right there, people doing this, full slates there. Another one right there at the top. See Pirello, my goodness, Christopher with a gigantic victory. And that's what it is. We are using what you have available to us. You're listening to people like Anthony. You're applying Awesemo Plus tools. And look at that. Pete the Heat MMA taking home a gigantic victory there. Win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Tweet your wins. I don't know if it's Chris. Look, I don't know if you've seen that one there as well. These are gigantics. I don't know if we're talking about the level of Anthony Gundacker victories, but still, number one is number one, right?
Yeah, no, every night you're looking up, no matter what contest you're in, you look at the top, you're going to see the Awesemo avatar.
It's really cool to see that. And you see it more and more, right? As you start to look for it, it's right there at the top. All right, let's go. We move on here. We hit you already with the first half of the 4-game slate tonight. The Cubs, Braves, Dodgers, Brewers, a lot with Trevor Bauer as the chalk pitcher tonight. But now we move into Boston, Texas, the game in Arlington, right? And you start to look at a couple of other guys, and maybe it's Gibson. Maybe there is a name here where the value based off of what we've seen recently from a couple of starts, jumps out as maybe a more definitive SP2 than what we've talked about so far outside of Bauer. I mean, I'm seeing here Gibson hasn't allowed more than one earned run, right? Each of his last 4 starts. He's had 4 straight quality starts. You mentioned the price, not a big deal at 7,000. Is that a name maybe that jumps out here as another option alongside Bauer?
Yeah, absolutely. Gibson's ERA has been a little bit better than his Sierra and xFIP. However, his Sierra and xFIP have both been under 4, and his swinging strike rate is flirting with 14%. Decent enough sample size so far. I actually think if I compare his metrics to Luke Weaver's metrics, Gibson looks like the better individual pitcher. And Luke Weaver is projected to be the second highest owned pitcher on the slate. So the matchup for Weaver, much, much more enticing than Gibson. However, if I wanted to gamble on some talent here, you don't always have to fade the top pitcher to be different in tournaments. Maybe getting a little bit different going against some of the Luke Weaver ownership with some Kyle Gibson could be a fun approach to this slate. This Red Sox lineup should look normal. We haven't got this one confirmed yet. We did get that Cubs lineup confirmed, by the way, and we got leadoff Rizzo, so I definitely love that. The train loves it too. But yeah, Kyle Gibson 7K on DraftKings, that's probably a little too cheap. I would probably on my board rank him above Weaver from a talent standpoint. So I do like some Kyle Gibson. If I wanted to pick on Gibson so far, he's been pretty pristine, but he has allowed an elevated average to righties. So maybe a JD Martinez, Xander Bogaerts, guys like that. But this will certainly be one of those spots where I have a little bit of both sides, but I might have more Gibson than Luke Weaver. And I think that that might be my epiphany revelation moment for this slate, because Weaver is second highest owned pitcher.
Yeah, 7,700 too. I know you said that the ownership as far as cost isn't as big of a factor, especially on this shorter slate. But I am curious, when you start to compare the two and you're looking for maybe a secondary or tertiary reason to split the two, how much, in your mind at least, is that $700 worth a change, at least going to Gibson, even though you do technically, as you mentioned, have him ranked higher than Weaver?
Yeah, that to me, it's just really... It's not part of the decision making. It's more of a raw point. Who's going to score more at this state? A $700 difference, 1 point. It's more like if you're running optimizers with Gibson or Weaver, it's not just losing out on that 700, but a lot of times you'll lose out on some of the opposing bats. So, for instance, in this case, you're not going to likely land on a ton of Rockies. Maybe Ryan McMahon, Trevor Story, guys like that. So it'd be those guys versus maybe JD Martinez, Xander, guys like that, maybe even Verdugo. So the 700 is not a factor for me. It's who do I think can just be outright the higher scorer between the two. But when you do punch that into your optimizer, a lot of optimizers will be defaulted to not put opposing hitters against your pitcher. Maybe on this slate, I allow up to 1 to kind of fight back against that little process, but just from a price standpoint, that wouldn't impact or sway me from Gibson or Weaver.
Are you a little surprised, or maybe not at all, that Boston, based off what you looked at with Gibson and kind of the numbers that have been thrown out here, especially seeing where he is from an ownership standpoint, are you a little surprised that Boston is on the top stacks tool, such a highly owned stack? Or not even owned, pardon me, but the value is that the ownership is less, but the value on the stack percentage is so high?
Yeah, a little bit, because JD Martinez, Bogaerts, and Devers are all over 5K, and there's not a whole lot of value in those bats. But I do think Verdugo could probably, and on Fanduel, those guys are very valuable as well, under 4K all across the board. So a little bit, but the range, you get into that Rangers bullpen, all bets are off, and the core of the Red Sox lineup is pretty solid.
Yeah, I'm looking at it here. Bogaerts, the main guy, at least on DraftKings, that has the highest price, where you could probably maneuver a cheaper yet effective stack with Boston tonight.
Yeah, depending on his lineup shakes out. Verdugo's probably a little too cheap for the opportunity. Christian Vasquez feels like he's going to be a hard click if I'm just isolating, a couple of lineups. Will Smith potentially batting cleanup on the road in a plus park, and then Wilson Contreras for the Cubs is batting second, and then Omar Narvaez might be batting second as well for the Brewers, and those guys are really competitive pricing wise considering the opportunity. So it's hard to, and he's right there in the heart of lineup. So man, on fan, I don't know if you see the discrepancy in pricing between Fanduel and DraftKings, but some of these Red Sox come in a lot more of a bargain on Fanduel than on DraftKings.
That might be the play then. If you're looking for the efficient, right, the cost-efficient stack for Boston, you take advantage of them on FanDuel and then play it out differently, right, as far as more chalk, especially if you're not looking at that much of a restraint financially on DraftKings. I wonder now, just looking on the flip side, as far as how stackable this is going up against Boston, and, you look at the value, the top value that you're going to get for a Rangers stack, and it's pretty high, really just below the Cubs.
Yeah, so the reason I would probably say that that's happening is because Martin Perez is an extreme contact pitcher, just a 6.2% swinging strike rate so far, an over 5 Sierra, over 5 xFIP. Rangers are a team that aren't great overall, especially against a higher strikeout guy, and Martin Perez is not that guy. So if you're going to allow even a guy like Joey Gallo, who you kind of prefer the platoon advantage here, if you're going to allow Joey Gallo to neutralize his near 40% K rate to lefties with a guy that's going to pitch the contact, then yeah, he's right there in the conversation to send one over the wall, even with the roof closed here. So I think that the benefactor for the Rangers being a value stack is the fact that Martin Perez is going to challenge the Rangers to put the ball in play, and they have some pop. Like, don't let the record fool you. Adolis Garcia, Joey Gallo, Nick Solak, all guys that can hit for power. And Nick Solak, if you were to look at like home run leaders in the major leagues, Solak has 7 bombs on the season. So he's right up there with some of the better power hitters in the league so far, just from a cumulative standpoint. So I can 100% understand why they project pretty solid as a potential value stack.
Yeah, and just looking at, struggles, I know Perez, right, he blows the lead the last time out, and the expectations of, how many times through, and I don't know if you factor that in tonight, but if it's a short outing, then you're working pen, right? And depending on who comes in, depending on how short of an outing that may be, but if you're the Rangers, for example, you may not get the benefit of seeing him 2-3 times in the lineup and take advantage of that. And I wonder if that might be a deterrent for a Ranger stack, despite getting some really good opportunities here to play guys at a low cost.
Kind of. The reason Martin Perez being a contact pitcher, he's really an inning eater. His approach is going to be pitch to contact, get ground balls, and get outs. So there's a good chance that these hitters get 3 shots at him because contact pitchers will keep that pitch count down and be able to go deeper. But allowing balls in play is allowing the opportunity for hits, and that's where the Rangers profile well. But so far, Martin Perez has been a strike thrower, just a 10.8% walk rate overall. Probably not great. Like you would want that to be a little bit lower for a guy that's not pitching the strikeouts. But yeah, I think more than likely the Rangers get a third look, or at least the top half gets a third look, even if it's just a couple hits here and there. That Rangers lineup actually did come out confirmed. It looks like it was the projected lineup with Isaiah Kiner Falefa leading off, Nick Solak, Joey Gallo, Adolis Garcia as your 1 through 4. Jose Trevino's batting 6th, and then Charlie Culberson. You guys might remember him from Atlanta Braves greatness. He's in the 8th spot. I don't know that he would get 3 at-bats against Martin Perez, but over the course of the last couple of years, he's been a pretty solid bat against left-handed pitching, batting .333 and slugging over .550. Wow. So might be a bottom of the order nugget.
That's a great find. What's his value there? What's his price? I was looking for it real quick.
He's 23 on Fanduel, 34 on Draftkings.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, you don't even need to bank a third time around. If you're going to get any productivity off of that price, 2 times around should be enough on a return there, right?
I mean, 1 time around.
Baseball
is, yeah.
Fair enough.
Baseball's weird like that.
That's a great find, though, there at the bottom end. Is there anything on the flip side before we move on to our final game? Is there anything else deeper maybe that you can mine from this here just before we move on to the final game?
Yeah, if I was going to target some Red Sox bats, it would likely be centered around JD Martinez, Xander Bogaerts. Kyle Gibson in the last 2 seasons has allowed an elevated average to righties. The difference between Gibson so far this season to last year is his hard contact rate allowed has dipped over 10% to lefties. He was at 37%. Now he's at 27%, and then almost 20% to righties. If you don't think regression is coming for those numbers, then you just want to pick talented bats against them. And I think it's Xander Bogaerts and JD Martinez. These are pro hitters with a little pop. Xander Bogaerts is a guy that has had some success grade-wise against the fastball and the slider, and those are going to be Gibson's primary and secondary pitches, and also does well against the changeup well. So the pitch report for me grades out pretty well for Bogaerts to be kind of middle of the lineup type of guy right now. I got him projected to bat leadoff. So I definitely don't want to. I don't want to shun the Red Sox because they are a top 3, top 4 team in projected run total. But at those prices, like you have to be great.
You say that wearing a Yankees hat, so I can't help but laugh because I know you want to shun the Red Sox.
I do. I definitely do.
Is there any value in someone like Christian Vasquez in this stack here as a guy who's probably going to be more of a contrarian play, but has hit safely in a couple of games now and might be just a decent option in that stack if you're running a deeper stack for Boston?
Yeah, if he's batting 6th, you can connect him to Devers, Bogaerts, JD, Verdugo. Yeah, there's no reason to ignore him. Like I said, the debate at catcher is more so for the single entry or the 3 entry stuff like that, because there's a lot of usually catchers aren't as lucrative pre-flop as so far they look tonight. What I mean by that, I mentioned Wilson Contreras batting 2nd on the road against the poorest pitching that the Braves will offer. The Braves have d'Arnaud in the 5 spot. The Dodgers have Will Smith cleaning up in the heart of just a really, really stacked lineup. Omar Narvaez could bat 2nd for the Brewers. And even Carson Kelly has led off or been in the top 5. So catcher bats today are in some decent spots pre-flop for a 4-game slate. So the Vasquez debate is more so just individual lineup concerns, but in a stack, I would just trust the robot to achieve what I need to achieve, and there's no reason to ignore Vasquez.
We've got 1 game left, and a reminder about Odd Shopper. It's the best edge that you'll have out there, provided to you by Awesemo, oddshopper.awesemo.com. We're using it here. Everything updated. You're placing a wager. It's where you want to be to get the latest. If it's a total, if it's a spread, if it's anything specific, even a look ahead line to kind of get an idea about however you factor that in to your lineups. This is the place, the only place, the best place to go. Again, oddshopper.awesemo.com. And the other tool that we continue to allow you to have available to you free, that's part of the Awesemo Plus package. And today is the MLB top pitchers. And hopefully, granted, we only have 1 top pitcher, but a lot of value in mining through the SP2s out there that you're building in your lineups tonight. So Awesemo Plus, it's simple. It's $29.95, the weekly package. It's easy, and you get access to tons of things beyond just these shows and the tools that are available free on awesemo.com. All right, we mentioned earlier the name, and we can come back now tonight to the final game on the slate here in Arizona. Let's start with Luke Weaver. We've already thrown at least 2 other names. Now, Bauer is the obvious one, right? But Weaver comes in at 7,700 DraftKings. Last start versus Atlanta, 4 runs, 4 walks, a K5. You're shaking your head. I know you're not feeling Weaver tonight. That's what I'm getting, right?
I don't like I sometimes I come into a slate and I look at ownership projections. I'm like, man, how am I this opposite of the field? Weaver's got me in that spot. One thing I'm seeing right now, and this could change. Right now, I'm showing Roof projected to be open in Chase Field, which would create one of the best weather environments on the slate. Arizona is looking at like 89 degrees there. They've done some weird stuff where they don't open the roof till midway through the game, where they just straight up have it closed. So maybe keep an eye on that as we get closer to lock. I think the reason Weaver's projecting so popular is just because the Rockies have been so bad. The other night was it Desclafani? We saw just an average pitcher, CG, the Rockies, and I think people are just thinking, hey, the Rockies are that bad, let's pitch against them. And I get it. So like I understand it from that perspective, but from a talent perspective, man, Weaver comes with a lot of risk at that ownership. So I'm probably willing to stick my neck out there and say that guys like Alzolay and guys like Kyle Gibson look better metrically as actual pitching talent than Luke Weaver has thus far. Back-to-back games of 4 earnings allowed. The pitch count's fine. He had a game in Coors earlier this season against this Rockies team. I mean, typically you can write off what happens at Coors, but I mean, with the roof open in Chase Field, it becomes more hitter friendly. He's had 1 game worth this ownership this season, so I'm a little bit defiant versus the field tonight. If I got to find a spot to get different on a 4-game slate, it might be me pushing back against the Weaver ownership, and not necessarily even from a Rocky stack standpoint. However, I do think there are leaks against Weaver, especially against lefties. Last 2 seasons, averaging about a 40+% hard contact rate to lefties, a near 3 home run per 9. You could sign me up for some Ryan McMahon, maybe even some Charlie Blackmon, and Raimel Tapia is very obtainable as well. And Trevor Story will just might as well include him. So I'm very I don't want to say anti-Weaver, but for that ownership, I don't know if 50% of the time Weaver's the best play versus Gibson versus Alzolay. And I definitely can see that Alzolay and Gibson's matchups are much tougher. But man, I want to bank on the talent here, and I don't know Weaver gives me the warm and fuzzies in that regard. So yeah, I don't want to sway people to join me on the aim for the bushes ledge, but that might be my way to get different.
I love it, man. I think if you look at it as you just laid it out, it makes a lot of sense, right? And you can see it there as far as Weaver and the projections with him right below Bauer. But I wonder in this same game if you can go on the opposite side, or are we just ruling out pitchers altogether because the roof is anticipated open tonight at Arizona?
Yeah, I mean, Senzatela doesn't offer Senzatela a
at
lot
6,
like
Mark. I see him at.
Right. So yeah, if you want to hope for hitters points at that point, 12, 15, sure. But he's like Martin Perez. He's pitching to contact and not going to offer you a lot of upside. And if he does let 1 or 2 earnings in, he's not really going to be able to correct it with some strikeouts to make up for those points. So very uninspiring click there. Maybe if you just saying on a 4-game slate, 10+ fantasy points because you're expecting the worst at your SP2, go for it. But Senzatela and Martin Perez are just like contact pitchers that I'll probably avoid.
Yeah, last start, Rhys Hoskins tattooed him, and yeah, I mean, you're coming off of that now into this environment tonight, but then that opens up the stacks, and you started to hint at that in Colorado and going through a couple of guys that you liked, including Blackmon here. But I'm curious if this is now and just looking alongside, right, what we have as far as the value for the stacks and where people are on the top stack tool on Awesemo, just looking at Arizona, you're right there, right, as the 3rd team. But I wonder if Colorado, just above Atlanta now, as far as the value is concerned, might be the better play simply because it appears to be a little more contrarian.
Yeah, I would like to see the Rockies lineup confirmed. We did get that Braves lineup confirmed. Acuna, Freeman, Ozuna, Albies. It's pretty much as projected. I just think talent-wise, the Braves are better than the Rockies. So I like to gamble on talent. But hey, sometimes Yeah, bad hitting can beat bad pitching in the major league. So, Tapia, Story, McMahon, like, yeah, there's a range of outcomes where these Rockies, these dogs will hunt against a pitching staff like or a pitching staff led by Weaver tonight. So, would I want more Rockies than Braves? Probably not, but I would probably have enough Rocky stacks to leverage the field. And man, I really might get really crazy and just not have Weaver exposure. Oh my goodness.
Just remove it altogether from your life tonight.
Yeah, I like the offenses here. Absolutely, both sides.
Well, the D-back stack, right? I mean, we didn't really look at that in depth from your point of view. So I wonder, I mean, you're going down and you're getting some decent value for some of these guys, especially with the expectations that Senzatela is going to get knocked around. So that park, it opened up. You have a contact pitcher, pretty much a recipe for a stack, right?
Yeah, if those ground balls bleed through, kind of like Martin Perez, there's a world where he gives up a single here and there. He doesn't walk hitters as much as Martin Perez does. 5% walk rate last season, 7.1% this season. Obviously, the Coors effect will inflate a lot of his metrics as is. But from what he's supposed to be, a contact ground ball pitcher, he is that. And the D-backs aren't world beaters themselves. So I really don't want that to get twisted. This is a lineup that absolutely lacks power normally. I got David Peralta leading the team in projected slugging percentage over the course of the last 2 seasons against righties. So it's more of a do bad hitting beat bad pitching in good hitting environment. And if the roof's open, I think it would be a good hitting environment, but it could still just be a bunch of singles and double plays, maybe a bomb here and there. So yeah, I don't have a lot of inspiration in attacking Senzatela for bombs, but this season and digging into the last season, he has allowed more home runs to righties than lefties, and there's not much. Like, I got Wyatt Matheson, Carson Kelly, and Nick Ahmed as the projected righties for the D-backs tonight. So good luck with that. Like, it's bad, but it's good at the same time.
Yeah, Kelly coming off a home run, right? 2 for 3.
Yeah,
4,700.
Carson Kelly's one of their better bats. I definitely prefer him against lefties than righties. And yesterday, I don't know, he started high in the order against the lefty, and a lot of his stuff so far this year, power rights has been to the left-handed pitchers. But yeah, I mean, he does possess the power to send one over the wall. But generally speaking, like this is a lefty-heavy team, and Senzatela has allowed a low average, a sub 240 average to lefties since the beginning of last year, and a sub 1 home run per 9. That's cores included. So he could play spoiler if people are over aggressive on D-backs.
Couple of shouts on the stream I want to get to, and let's start with King DDG. Shout out to Awesemo. Love you guys. Took down first place on Fanduel Sunday's MLB slate for 30,000. By far the best side out there. That's us here. Super chats coming soon. So that's hey, hopefully that was part of the Awesemo Hall of Fame. Because if you have the avatar and you're winning like that, we want to know all about it. That's a pretty big victory right there. Not top level, but hey, 50,000, that's pretty damn impressive. And we appreciate your 30,000 party. I don't want to add any more extra on that victory, but that's amazing. Now, lineups have come out since we started this, and Andrew Martinez asking how you'd rank your Cubs players, Anthony. Let's go back to that, because even when we were talking about that game, we were waiting for the lineups to hit.
Right. Anthony Rizzo leading off. I love leadoff Rizzo almost anywhere, but you get him on the road in this spot. Anthony Rizzo probably going to project as one of my favorite first basemen. He'll be competing, I guess, with Freddie Freeman in the same game. But yeah, amazing spot. There was a stretch when Madden was their skipper where it just felt like anytime Rizzo led off, he would homer. So love the Rizzo leadoff spot there. We did see, it looks like Ian Happ's not going to be in the lineup, and neither is David Boat. We're going to see guys like Matt Duffy batting third, so a little value opportunity there. He's only 2.4K. Sandwich between Wilson Contreras, Chris Bryant, Hayward in the 6th spot, Jake Marisnick, and Nico Herner. It falls off a cliff pretty fast. So now I'm more so in agreement with the Braves being favorites here, but it's still a super plus spot for. I'd probably still take some shots on Javi Baez. So 1 through 5, and if I had to rank them, it'd be Rizzo 1, probably Rizzo, Bryant, Contreras 1 through 3, and then coin flip. Probably Duffy over Baez just because he's going to be in the thick of things.
Now we've got the Dodgers out. Brewers still not out yet, or did you see that officially?
I don't have a Brewers. I have Cubs.
Dodgers and Cubs, right?
Dodgers, yeah.
All right, so go ahead. I'm sorry, brother.
Oh, you're fine. The Dodgers came out, it looks like as expected. Mookie leading off, Seager, Turner, Will Smith, Muncy. Yeah, everyone in that particular lineup I'm a buyer on. AJ Pollock has been a little bit underwhelming so far. He's somebody historically that we've loved to play against lefties. The tricky part with the Dodgers is Dave Roberts does love to double switch and switch guys out defensively halfway through the game. So you're hoping that maybe some of these secondary supplementary plays get there in limited at bats, 2 or 3. But Mookie, Seager, Turner, Will Smith, and Muncy probably there for the long haul. It's the 6, 7, 8 guys that I'd be worried about 9 innings of play from.
Now, you mentioned the Cubs, and we went through and ranked them, but I just want for the people that have joined us later, or maybe when we were going through this game initially, didn't have the benefit of that lineup locked in. You did express your thoughts, right, on that stack, but there were also a little concerns about running the Brave stack tonight.
So, I mean, Alzolay is metrically, his underlying metrics are positive. A sub 3.5 Sierra, sub 3.4 xFIP, and a swinging strike rate over 14%. It's only 15 innings of sample size, so everything we're working with Alzolay is limited sample size, so there could be regression coming. But so far, so good in what we have seen, and he's just been mostly unlucky. A high line drive rate to both sides of the plate, so he's getting barreled up. But the underlying metrics are definitely giving me a hope to take some shots on him on a 4-gamer.
Make sure you like and subscribe. Everything you see here on the Awesemo YouTube channel, subscribe, and you can keep up with everything that we do, DFS offers and giveaways. It's not just content. And make sure that you like as well, and you hit that notification bell right next to it so you get updates every time we go live on everything across the board. And I think we did it, right? I mean, this has been a jam-packed MLB DFS deeper dive, my friend, and thank you for being patient with me on my inaugural ship here.
Man, it's my pleasure, man. Hopefully we'll do some more in the coming future.
Well, you have to let the world know, because on the stream, we went from initially disproving the myth out there that it's your birthday today, but people want to know when you're on next. So you got to give the people what they want.
I think tomorrow, me and Alex are scheduled for this afternoon time slot, which Friday night baseball, usually a wild one. So we'll be back at it tomorrow. Yeah, it looks like me and Alex and you, right? Tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern. And then, of course, Emac's going to wake me up for a fishing trip Saturday morning.
Fair enough, man. Fishing trip. What type of fishing?
MLB.
Oh, gotcha.
I know it.
All right, brother.
Oh no, I don't have Saturday morning. I'm good.
Okay, good, good. Anthony's on Twitter at Gundacker. I am at Shander Show. Thank you, Tyler, producing. Thank you all out there for joining us. It is the Awesemo MLB Deeper Dive.